scared to go, particularly at night. Now I'm on a journey to see whether these places really exist. I'm not sure I quite realised before I started this trip how dangerous it was going to be. There were times when I truly thought I was going to be hurt.
Why are you telling me I'm staring at you, blood?
I thought you were.
Don't touch me!
Well, don't get so close.
Sense in your face, bro.
I also wasn't prepared for some of the horrific tales people would tell me along the way.
I was so scared, I cannot begin to tell you. I thought I was going to die.
It's absolutely terrifying. I'm terrified to go out there sometimes at night.
People should be safe. This is London. This is England.
My first stop is Tower Hamlets in the East End of London. For generations this place has played host to strangers. First the Huguenots, Jews and Irish, then the Bengalis, and now me. This was my welcome.
Stop that shit, what are you doing? You can't do that, man. You can't do that. You can't do that. Hands off. Shut up.
Tower Hamlets has been ranked the most deprived borough in the country. Over a third of the population are of Bangladeshi origin. This rises to almost 50% amongst those under 16. I'm moving in for a bit. I want to find out for myself what it's really like to live here. So this is home for the next few weeks. I've read a lot about this place. It's got an awful reputation for street violence and people taking drugs. And I must admit I'm quite nervous really about spending any length of time here rather than just reading about it in a newspaper. I'm just the new lad in town. I had to be just like everybody else because people change in front of a lens. Nobody here knows I am, essentially, a walking camera. This is one of the country's most densely populated areas, where social housing schemes still dominate. Yet in some places, especially after dark, adults disappear. And I didn't once spot a pensioner. Teenagers and drug users rule these streets at night. Excuse me, where's Chicksand Street? Next one.
You smoke?
Yeah, man. How much can you get green for?
Take my number down in it. You can get as much as you want, man.
Half ants, anything.
How much though, man?
£15 bags.
How much you get in a bag?
£15, about
2 grams. It's always skunk, yeah? It's only green. No thing. Like
nothing else. Alright. Cheers then.
Where you are now is Bengali men's country.
There, mate.
It's no white man country. Bangladesh is this country, not British. Bangladesh.
This is Bangladesh?
Yeah.
Alright, man. Brick Lane is the beating heart of the Bangladeshi community, pumping people in and out of its famed Indian restaurants. But behind this vibrant facade lies a barely disguised violence. It's not just Brick Lane. The whole borough is blighted by Asian on Asian crime. This is a takeaway pizza shop not far from the bustle of Brick Lane. The cooks and drivers face a persistent onslaught of abuse from gangs and drug dealers. But sometimes the abuse turns, inevitably, to violence.
And the driver tried to go delivery. There's 2 guys, they was completely drunk. They grabbed the pizza from driver. I said, okay, go away and leave us. They went and they come back with 6 guys. They had sticks, baseballs, woods, stones, bottle, everything. They straight away come inside the shop, beating 2 driver. I tried to shut this door like this. I was trying to shut the door like this. They smashed the window and then all the glass come through to my face. And they said, where is that driver? We want to talk to them. Where is that nigger?
E nisso chegou um cara com um taco de beisebol
e bateu na minha cabeça. E aí eu senti muita dor, e a minha cabeça começou a sangrar. Eu olhei a minha mão, começou a sangrar. E eu fui perdendo as forças, e eu já não sabia mais aonde eu estava. Aí agora eu fico com medo de ficar aqui, de morar aqui em Londres.
I called the police officer arrived here after 25 minutes, which is everything is gone. My driver is in the hospital, myself beaten up in my head, and another driver, he just left the job and he ran. He said, I'm not going to work for you.
Now that pizza shop might be a dangerous place to work, but you don't have to go very far to find other businesses suffering equally as badly.
It's almost every single week there is trouble. We are used to open 24 hours a day, you see, and since last 2 months we now close at 2 o'clock in the morning because I've been robbed 3 times this year with, and it happened twice in one night with guns. So it's just getting worse and worse.
Now Mr. Qureshi is a peaceful man who just wants to earn a living and go home, but he can't help but prepare for the worst.
We carry, you can see here what we have here. We don't want, we never use it, but still to you know, to protect ourselves. If someone have knife with them, like these things, you have to carry the because we close very late at night. Police and customs do nothing around here.
Many restaurants here have been attacked at least once, some frequently. We found this man. He'd only just replaced his windows after an onslaught from an out-of-control gang. Only a few yards up the street, and here's another restaurant suffering at the hands of these thugs. This time the owner cleaning up after a petrol bomb attack. It wasn't the first attack he'd suffered.
You see lot of chairs and lot more is available there inside. Lot. They put petrol bomb. This is the result of that one. Please help me. One bomb is here, blast, then burn whole area. So we yesterday, emergency, we painted over everything. Then another bomb was there. It was on the table, then it fall down. Petrol was everywhere. Every single day, something happened. Some fight, something like you cannot believe it. People should be safe. This is London. This is England.
The police insist they are tackling violent crime and are having a positive effect. But those businessmen say it's not enough. So what's happening? Luke Gagan might know. He's a priest who runs a local charity. This is not a race issue. It is Asian kids attacking Asian businesses.
Brick Lane is the heart of the economic community for the Bangladeshi community, and yet the strip of curry shops that a lot of the visitors see belie the fact that this is an area of intense poverty. Further east, the housing is ranked as some of the worst in the country. I mean, if you think that unemployment in the Bangladeshi community is somewhere between 25 and 30%, it's going to be enormously difficult for young men to find their place in life. And like any other young people, get frustrated, and idleness can turn to violence and drugs.
Extreme wealth dominates the skyline. The banks and broker firms of the City of London are only a short stroll away from this debris. And nearby, as our director found, criminal behaviour takes root amongst the rubble.
This is the bike then.
Oh, please say you're from the police.
No, I'm not from the bloody police. This is the bike then.
No, give me a pick up here. We just found it in the bin.
Oh, it was just lying there.
What? And I haven't touched it yet. Well, I haven't touched it at all. Because they're on the stolen motorbike.
Are they?
Yeah.
Where do they steal it from?
They nicked it.
Where from?
Some old man's house.
Do they? How do you know?
Because I was there. I didn't touch the wire, but I was there.
Teenage gangs are a nuisance that keeps people indoors, but at least the gang's outside. A front door is often no protection for those living in high-rise housing blocks. These are the haunts of heroin users and prostitutes. I was surprised to learn that a lot of these drug users are Asian.
Very worst thing is sick and sit. Very worse. I clean piece as well. Always piece, shake and syringes and spoil paper, can, bottle. Many things. Many people coming here. Those people is druggy. Everyone coming for the drug use. They are mostly Asian. Mostly Asian.
Rich city types who work in some of the nation's landmark buildings are a rare sight on these streets. But imagine living here. Imagine putting the key in the lock of that front door and just not knowing what is on the other side. This is Denning Point, a tower block right on the very edge of the city. And these are the Eldons. This has been their home for more than 17 years and was once a pleasant building that they enjoyed living in.
As you can see, this is the remains of somebody who's cleared it up to a degree, but this is where, after taking the drugs, invariably it causes you to vomit.
This is a fire door. That's a fire door. It should be attached, but it's not.
Security at Denning Point could hardly be described as tight. The back door's broken, and the CCTV cameras, which once helped guard the place, have simply been smashed from the ceiling by those who didn't want to be watched.
Well, the people who are obviously coming in are the people who are taking drugs, prostitutes, dossers. They congregate in this block because they know they can use the stairwells as somewhere safe to take drugs. It's what it is. It's a social club for drug takers.
I decided to find out for myself what this heroin high-rise is like at night. Hello? I just pressed one button then, somebody opened the door straight away, so it's obviously very easy if you want to get in here to do drugs like the residents claim. Well, there's clearly somebody around here because there's a lot of silver foil here. Somebody's been shooting at detritus of heroin use.
Our poor caretaker gets to clear up human mess of all descriptions.
Human excrement.
Oh, they shit on the floor.
Somebody's been to the toilet on the floor. The lift went just as I walked through the door, and I think we were literally a couple of seconds behind them. What a life.
The likes of us two and other people in the block
can't afford to confront them that much, because you don't know if they're carrying anything or whether they're going to just hit you and send you flying. You just go in and shut the door and hope that they're going.
Home security dealers must have done a roaring trade from the fears of the families living in this building. Nobody, it seems, has one lock or an ordinary door.
This is the most impressive door we've seen yet. I mean, it looks solid steel with a solid steel frame. There's two hefty great locks there. I mean, it's almost like a bank vault door. It's the 13th juggy floor, which maybe it's inside knowledge. We'll have a look. This is a bong for smoking cannabis. You burn it on there and you put a pipe in there and suck. It's still warm. Oh shit, sorry.
Then, exactly what the Eldons had been talking about appeared in front of me. A 24-year-old girl addicted to heroin, sitting in the stairwell.
Do you live here then?
No, I'm just started.
Are you homeless?
I weren't homeless, I wouldn't be sitting on the stairwell.
How long have you been on the streets for?
1.5 years.
Right. Do you ever get any grief off the residents in here?
No. No, you know they don't like it, but...
Are you on the game as well, like?
I was, yeah.
He was on the game?
Well, I do it now and again, but I used to be able to do it every day. My drug addiction.
I mean, look at this. This sums this place up for me, to be honest. Over there you've got Canary Wharf, you've got banks, newspaper offices, accountancy firms, very rich people earning serious money. Come in here, all we share here is height. The people who live in here are just living in squalor.
The council says it is listening to residents' concerns and is considering a concierge service. But, in the meantime, the block has round-the-clock problems. We returned at dawn. The heroin addict was still there, resting after working the streets all evening. Just another night of her life.
You've got blood on your skirt.
Yeah, I've got smashed over the end of a bottle.
Yeah.
It's a tank. It was blood in there and everything. It's horrible.
He attacked you, what, for no reason?
He wanted his money back, probably. You see them spots of blood?
Yeah.
They're mine. Can you see it? I don't know where it is.
Yeah, it's there. Can you see it, Sam? Turn your head up again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of this is Asian boys as well, and gangs of Asian boys that live around here. I had about 7 of them beat me up when I was 5 months pregnant. Yeah.
What was it about?
Because I'm a prostitute. They don't like it. But and they don't like it because we take drugs, but they're hypocrites because they have a go at us about selling, buying drugs, but then it's them that sell it to us, or it's their friends that sell it to us.
Yeah, you don't need no partner, yeah?
Drugs are available everywhere. During the first week of my new home, I went out one evening. I was called over by a group of teenagers hanging around my front door. They decided to strike up a conversation.
Now we're going to meet someone up here.
Oh, okay. You want skunk? You want weed?
You want what, sorry?
Oh, you want weed?
How much?
£10.
For how much though?
£10, one bag.
This much, £10.
This
very
much.
strong. Give me back.
You want? Tell me, I got.
The gangs and the violence here are often fueled by drugs. I met this man. He says he was trying to drive out the dealers selling drugs to kids in his local park. He's lucky to be alive.
Now, I ain't been attacked once, I've been attacked twice. Once I had my throat slit. I had near enough death experience. I've come back from death, if you want to see it. I had my throat slit from there to there. So I was walking along through Bethlehem Road on my own. Next thing, this car pulled up, 4 blokes jumped out, and basically they just come up to me and like sneaked up. And basically, next thing I thought was something went across my neck, and the blood just started spewing out, and they ran off basically.
But still, of course, the vast majority of kids here do not turn out bad. Moinal and Shahina are a brother and sister who grew up on one of these tough estates. They managed not to be drawn into the gang culture, but they understand why some kids reach for a quick fix to status. The quickest fix of all is to become a drug dealer.
They've been told, look, in order for you to have a happy life, in order for you to live a successful life, you've got to have certain things in your life in order for you to be happy. So they look at having a nice car, having business, having a house. They can't differentiate between a drug dealer, doctor, say a restaurant owner. For them, look, these guys have made it legally or illegally. That's beside it, but they have made it, and I've got to make it as well. This is how they feel.
Traditional Asian values tended to insulate and protect women, but even these ties now are weakening.
And there is a culture clash, meaning when they're at home, you've got the parents who've got Asian values, traditions, customs, and norms that need to be met. And there's a lot of pressure on the daughter to ensure that she fulfills that. Likewise, when she goes out into society, or say school, college, is a completely different reality altogether. So naturally now, the girl herself, they want to please their parents, but they don't really want to adopt that kind of tradition. In some circumstances, to deal with the issues, what they end up doing is resorting to drugs. That's something that's a new phenomenon for, say, the Asian girls, because it's never really happened before.
I can't see anything, I haven't got anything, because I've been wondering, I've been saying I think that maybe you cancel.
The local council is engaging young people in new ways to help solve some of these problems. Community wardens get involved with kids on a personal level. Ron Lawrence is one of them.
When I first came here, all these lads here, oh God. Whoa. Muggings, man. Fights, drugs.
It's Ron's job to gain trust and guide them away from destructive activities.
Why you keep an eye in your face, man? Eh? Why you? Oh God! Oh. Why you keep an eye? You're a gangster? What are you scared of, man? Come on, come and do something, man. You show your face, you might get a nice chick, man. Yeah. Eh? What you say? Eh? Get a nice chick, man. What you say? Oh, don't do that, man. Come on, man. What are you hiding, man? Eh? They've come up with this idea of using wardens. So, using wardens, we have a very different, softly approach.
Kids are always wary of you. They see you as a police informer, as a grass. I'm not here as a police. I'm just here to help. And we've gained a lot of their trust.
Yeah, my youth these, man. My youths, man. We used to have problem, we don't have no problem anymore, man. It's cool dudes there. I believe personally they should have more estate wardens, because if we have estate wardens, then you'll be able to control it to a certain degree.
The council says the wardens experiment has been a huge success, but its 3-year funding is coming to an end and its future is not guaranteed.
I actually don't feel that threatened walking around here during the daytime, but it's a very, very different story at night. There's a completely different feel. There's certainly places you don't want to be going here after dark, if you can help it.
There have been many mindless attacks on these streets. Even the Docklands Light Railway Station near my flat was the scene of a gruesome murder. A gang chased a man onto the tracks. They kicked him back down as he tried to climb back up. A train killed him. But I still hadn't felt that unsafe on these streets. So, when I was accosted in a leafy park by a gang of school-age kids, it came as a bit of a surprise.
What?
Why are you staring at me?
I was staring at you.
There you were.
Who was staring at you?
You was.
I was staring at you, yeah?
I don't know why you were.
Are you sure about that, yeah? So who was staring at you, blood?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, I was staring at you, blood. Was I
No.
staring at you?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
You sure?
Yeah?
So why the fuck you telling me I'm staring at you, blood?
I thought you were.
Don't touch me!
Well, don't get so close.
Oh, shanks on your face, bro. Fucking move, pussy.
We're just waiting for you to leave, man. So, no problem, man. No problem. As you just saw, we passed a group of lads there in Victoria Park. They took an interest in us very, very quickly and decided to swarm around us, or it felt like swarming around us. I mean, they were only about 14, 15, all wearing banners, so you can't see the faces. But they're very, very tough and aggressive towards you, which makes you wonder, especially around these parts, whether they're carrying a blade. So, you know, normal rules do not apply if a guy is going to stab you with a blade. So, you know, it's quite scary, really.
I found out later that a shank is a homemade knife. That teenage boy had threatened to slash my face and potentially mark me for life, just for looking at him. I didn't get hurt, but Francis Webber wasn't so lucky. One Christmas day, he went to the aid of his daughter's boyfriend who was being attacked outside his home.
Find in the middle of the road, there's 50, 60 of them. Bats, knives, lumps of wood, nails sticking out of them, anything.
Couldn't believe it, how many there was. They was just coming from everywhere. And then my husband come out, he's got in the middle of the road, and I just see them all crowd round him. And the next thing I knew, he was over by the wall and he was on the floor, and I was trying to get him off of him. And I got walloped across the back with a bat, and well, I think it was a bat anyway, which winded me for a while. And then all of a sudden, an elderly bloke from behind, an Asian bloke, come and hit him round the head with a cricket bat. And I screamed at him. I said, "What'd you do that for?" And he lifted the bat up to go and hit me with it. And then as with that, my husband went down on the floor. And as he did, he hit a car, and as he slipped down the car, there was all blood on the car, and I was screaming for someone to get an ambulance, because he was on warfarin, and which means that his blood doesn't clot.
Him simply because he was a gay man living on their patch with his lover. He's asked us not to name him.
His kids started shouting what was only homophobic abuse at us, and before we knew it, like a load of lads had run up here, and a load had come up from here, and we were surrounded, and there was 20 or 30, and they had all bits of metal pallets that were all broken up, and one had a metal pipe, and they had, others had bottles and bricks, and it surrounded Jay, and then he was trying to fight back, and they were all coming up behind him and hitting on the back of the head, and he was just going down, and I was so scared I cannot begin to tell you. I thought I was going to die, and we legged it as fast as we could down there with bricks and bottles following us, and when we got home, Jay had like a big cut on the back of his head, and he was seeing double, and you know, and after that, I had panic attacks if I even saw a group of boys together, and you know, I'm scared. I'm scared now. Let's get out of here.
It was so bad outside that he did what most of us would do. He simply stopped going out.
You end up becoming a prisoner in your own home. You know, when you're trying to make a home your own, it's not nice feeling that in the middle of the night you might get a petrol bomb through the window or something like that. When it gets to that stage, you just, you know, you just give up and go.
This is a huge problem with society, where we fail to reach out and engage with these very marginalised young men. We owe it to them morally to do the right thing by them. But even if we don't believe in morals anymore, it makes practical sense to reach out and support them and put them into employment, because otherwise, tomorrow I could be the one getting mugged.
The police are cracking down. Violent crime in the area has been reduced by a quarter, and a special team is tackling antisocial behaviour. They say they are striving to make Tower Hamlets safer for everyone. Some young men are taking it upon themselves to try to make things better. These kids give up their time in exchange only for paint and overalls. They see cleaning away graffiti as a small but very important step to tackling some of the problems faced by their community.
We thought, yeah, why don't we just get the young people themselves to get off, so that way, even though they're taking the graffiti off, their brothers and sisters and little brothers and older brothers will think, well, look, my brother took it off, so they ain't gonna bother putting it back on, and which has worked.
No graffiti for about a year now, so I think our job has been successful.
And on top
we
of
should
that,
go on to do more.
And on top of that, the crime rate, antisocial behaviour, drug dealing, vandalism, dumping cars, everything dropped.
Antisocial behaviour, everything's dropped.
So you can see how much difference it makes.
It's something called community spirit, man. It's all about community spirit and all about teamwork. If we don't have that, then we ain't going to have a community, and it's going to be, well, it's not going to be a nice area to live in, do you know what I'm saying? So it's all about community spirit.
That's nice, isn't it?
Working too hard today,
There's one of the youths that get up to no good doing graffiti. The graffiti boys. There's the youth that always do graffiti. No?
Hiding the face.
It's not about that, boys. You need to grow up.
You see our name on the walls and that?
They think writing your name on the wall like you're a big man, you get me? That's what he does all day. 9 to 5, yeah, he writes his name on the wall everywhere. It's not good, man. Give it up, give it up. Get yourself a job. Get yourself a job, man.
Boy, is that going to be on live or TV?
It's pretty clear that a lot of teenage men in Tower Hamlets are full of anger. It's not for me to say what they're angry at. I don't know. I'm not sure even they do, but it's there. You can find it pretty easily. Now, a consequence of that anger is, of course, fear, you know. If you live in a place like that for any length of time, it quickly becomes apparent that there are certain areas that you don't want to go to because you can get in trouble. So yes, it's fair to say there are parts of Tower Hamlets that are justified in being called no-go zones. My journey now takes me to the East End of Glasgow. A different culture entirely. Older, established. The problem's more ingrained. Glasgow is also, worryingly, the murder capital of Western Europe. The streets have a very, very different feel to Tower Hamlets. The faces are predominantly white. The place is less cosmopolitan. I felt like the people who live here would be the only people I'd see. It's not a place you come for a visit. Shettleston is in the heart of the East End. It's my home for a while. The cab driver who just dropped me off there is a local lad, born and bred in the area. He warned me to be careful because he said he wouldn't even walk down the main street here alone at night. This was my first Friday night, and it quickly became apparent how alcohol plays a significant role in this place's cultural makeup. A youngster clutching a bottle of Buckfast fortified wine is a common sight.
Excuse me, mate. Excuse me, are you alright? Do you want a hand? Do you want a hand up, man? Yeah, man. Oh, fucking hell! Shit! You alright?
Yeah, fuck are they? You close?
No, no.
You pull us.
I'm not.
You pull us, baby.
No, I'm not
Just
pulling
pull
us. Sorry, man, we saw you fall over. I thought you might have hurt yourself. Whoa!
Oh, shit!
I was about to cross a small park and pop into this bar for a drink. 5 seconds earlier would have been pretty awful timing. As I approached, a fight spilled out into the street.
There was a guy just came out of a pub there with his girlfriend. He slapped her to the ground and started fighting her, trying to hit her. Another guy stepped in, jumped on him, and there was a huge altercation, causing hell, you know. But they're off again, look, they're fighting now.
Friday night just got worse. This group of kids were having a bonfire. They tried to set fire to a tree, and burning debris was thrown onto a busy road. Then we followed some flashing lights. I soon learned that this patch of ground between the two estates of Rocasey and Garthamlock was almost lawless.
There's a fire engine behind me there, and there's a car burnt out in front of it. We don't know whether it's stolen or what. I mean, this is just one Friday night, and it's mayhem around here at the moment.
In a city where in a year there were 32,000 deliberately started fires, the East End is a particularly bad place to be a firefighter. Unfortunately, the dangers of an out-of-control blaze are not the only threat they face. There is another problem.
I've been in the fire brigade for almost 20 years. And throughout that time I've worked in the various stations around the East End, and the abuse, the violence, the attacks on firefighters has steadily got worse. I have seen firefighters threatened, I've seen them attacked by missiles. Our fire engine has been attacked by stones, brick, bottles. We have youths attempt to steal equipment off the fire appliance, and generally just disrupt everything that we're trying to do when we're at the scene of a fire.
Firefighters are paid to protect us. Surely they can expect to arrive at a blaze and be treated with respect. No. These men almost need their own protection.
We're now approaching the sort of range where the youth would be standing. This is a comfortable distance for them to throw items. For example, let's see, that's perhaps just a little bit too big for the younger kids, but certainly the older youth could certainly project this at you. It wouldn't take too much to injure someone with something like this.
We spent one night with an engine to see what happened. They were soon called out to a routine rubbish fire. And then things took a familiar twist. Youngsters attracted to the flashing lights even more so than the flames.
started? Right! I'm not telling you! No! I'm not telling you! Can you tell that's a secret? Yeah! Colin, do you have any idea how the fire started?
Good guess. Obviously deliberate. Obviously.
Leave this little guy alone. Can I see your helmet?
Unfortunately, this is reality of the situation. I would hope that it would change. I would hope that the youngsters would realise that we are there to support them. And in fact, it would be nice if they would just give us a break even.
Bob Holman is an Englishman who has lived in the East End for over 16 years. He's a community worker. This area has been hit harder than most by the decline in heavy industry. Many living here are truly poor.
Welcome.
But Bob believes there's a deeply ingrained tribal reason why local firefighters get so much grief.
I think it's not just that the firemen are in uniform. I think there's almost a sense that this is somebody from outside intervening, and we're the resistance to that. You know, we are the youngsters of this area. This is ours. Clear off. People haven't got many opportunities to travel themselves, and that almost insularity, I think, it's very strong in the East End. I mean, it's a very positive force. You know, you look after your own. You care for your own people, but it can also be a very negative force when outsiders come in.
Kids running wild on these streets is an almost nightly occurrence. Those who want an easy life simply avoid them. Some families can do little else, they feel, other than staying after dark and firmly bolt the door.
Friday night at 5 o'clock, roughly about 4:30, 5 o'clock, the gangs all come, start drinking. Then the fighting starts. They've got big lumps of wood, they've got stones, they've got bottles, come out with big blades. It's absolutely terrifying. I'm terrified to go out there sometimes at night. I'm a bag of nerves with it. And I've got 2 kids. The oldest one has been out in the park and he's had a kicking and he's only 8 years old. So after school, from 3 o'clock onwards, my kids are like 2 prisoners. They won't go outside the door. Inside, I'm dead angry for the simple reason is I just want my kids to have a normal life, but a good childhood.
Most local people we spoke to told us how gang fights are a huge problem in the area. Many, understandably, were too afraid to talk to us on camera. The lawless zone between Garthamlock and Rocasey is known as a particularly bad flashpoint between gangs from the opposing estates. And sure enough, it wasn't long before we stumbled upon the very end of a fight, the final stragglers being chased back to their home territory.
This is a big metal pipe that they've just been throwing at each other.
Our road separates these 2 estates, and there's basically only a stretch of grass about 100 yards between them. But it may as well be a border.
It's a bedpost, a big heavy oak bedpost there, really heavy. There's no debris here. There's a glass bottle which has been smashed. They've been throwing these things at each other too, you know. But it seems to be calm here now. There's rubbish strewn all over the place. I mean, it's on the road as well. You'll hear a car clumped over the bloody wood that they're throwing everywhere, you know. The detritus of this battle's everywhere to be seen, you know.
A senior police officer told me privately how his officers see gang fights almost every night. He had even witnessed them himself. Officially, the force accepts that there are genuine tensions between these rival estates.
As a
there violence in the area?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of it. With gang fighting and stabbing down the shops and that. Something happens nearly every month, basically nearly every week.
There's always gang fighting every Friday, Saturday night.
This is the high end, there's down the bottom end it's a Corby, and then beside that is the low end, and then up there it's the Jet, and they just fight. They all just fight. My friend's big brother was killed one night, and he was down at another scheme and he was getting chased, and it's just things like that happen all the time. People you know, people you don't know, rumours about people looking for children, and it just makes you feel dead unsafe.
Territorialism, or gangs if you like, is stronger in the East End than anywhere else I've ever lived. Many youngsters in the East End don't live in a nice house with a garden, so they're pushed onto the street. I mean, there's a very rich street life. So on the street, that becomes yours. You own that area, and you will defend that area against other groups. I've certainly known of youngsters who've been stabbed in fights between different territories, and in a couple of cases have been killed.
I regularly went back over the days and weeks to the Rocasian Garthamlock border area to see if I could find the gangs for myself. It didn't take too long. The place has a menacing atmosphere. We learned that whistling was often a preamble to a fight, a taunting of the enemy. We're just sitting in a car because we think there's a gang off to my left whistling, which is the Garthamlock team, and off to the right is the Rocasi team, and they're whistling at each other and shouting at each other, and clearly potentially gonna have another fight. It's a strange atmosphere. It's like being on safari or something with some weird group of two different groups of animals going to fight with each other. And they're all carrying sticks or bottles or bits of metal. It's not like an old-fashioned fist fight or something. There's kids here going to be getting hurt. See that noise you can hear shouting there? They're adult voices on the balconies behind me in Rocasi. Encouraging them on. It's like some sort of weird sport. This is no-go Britain right here. This happens regularly, we're told by residents here. Pitched battles across no man's land between two estates, two gangs of teenagers, all under 16 I would say, battering hell out of each other with sticks, bricks, bottles. It's just crazy, it's crazy, it really is. This is the front line. Inevitably there were casualties. A teenager hobbles back from a meaningless fight across this pointless front line. As the fight subsided, we spotted a group of about a dozen gang members heading for home. It seemed like a good idea at the time to try and find out what the hell was going on. They were very drunk.
What are you fighting for, lads? We're from the BBC!
fucking ass. Where you going, Daniel Cameron? Fucking make quickly. Shut up, fucking documentary. Yeah. You see that documentary? Come on, I'll show you the fucking documentary. Hurry up, get forward,
They're taken against us now, and they're moving in. They don't like the BBC documentary team. So we're being chased back to the car, and we're going to have to leave now. We're really going to have to leave now.
Get in the car.
This door's not open.
Let's get in the car, lad. Carl, get it. Get in the car.
This door's not open.
Get the car in there, Mel.
I found some of the Garthamlock gang the following evening outside a tandoori takeaway. I wanted to try and understand why they fought their neighbours.
Alright lads, alright. When are you involved in these scraps last night? We're not coppers, by the way. I'm a TV man? Yeah. Aye. We're not interested in getting us in trouble, man. We're just interested in why, you know.
Not else today. There's nothing else today. There's nothing today. They've never liked it. They've never liked us. We got Pierre right and they all whistle. It's been on for years and years. What's your point? There's no point. It's been on for years and years. No point.
So, do you fight with other lads or just them?
Just us and them. Families, your parents, are they care?
Never single one. My mum. You know my mum too. They don't know we're here. They do care, but it's just like you grow up and they say, we used to fight with him, so we did it and they did it. That's what happens.
Oh, Scott!
I'm a top man, you're a farmer. That's all you need to know. I'm a top man.
What I find really depressing about all this is the fact you've got these two groups of lads from different estates separated by a bit of wasteland, and they meet there and fight every Friday and Saturday night. And it's almost just something to do. They don't hate each other. On a Monday they could meet each other again at the corner shop buying a bottle of milk. Friday night comes and they fight again. I'd seen many knives in that gang fight. Knives here are a deadly problem. The proof is there to be found in local hospital wards and cemeteries. This is a tribute to Kevin Lawson. He was not a gang fighter. He was stabbed to death at the age of 19 after an argument with an older man.
On the Thursday, Kevin was up Tollcross with a couple of his friends, and they came at him in the car and he shouted out, "I'm going to get you, Lawson." What for, we don't know. We don't know. And they did get him on a Friday night.
I was actually waiting for Kevin, standing at the corner with a knife and some other weapon. That's who was out for Kevin. That was the end of my son's life.
It's just been a total nightmare the past 19 months. I just don't know how we've managed to get through it. It's just getting, every weekend there's somebody getting murdered or somebody's getting stabbed.
But they're carrying knives because they're frightened. They're carrying knives because somebody else is carrying it. Where does it stop?
Some people are trying to prevent any more of these horror stories. Bob Holman started a community project called FAIR. It began after a meeting of local residents concerned that their children had nothing to do. It aims to break down territorial boundaries.
If they weren't coming in here, they'd probably be running wild on the ground out here, or up there, which is sometimes called the killing fields, where gangs meet. At this very moment, one of our youth leaders is away with 18 young people, some from here, others from different territories, and our hope is that by doing things together, by going on holiday together, in future they will unite and be peaceful, not violent.
Good point.
There's a depressing finger in the dam feel to the good work being done by people like Bob. It just isn't enough. The police are also trying to take as much of the edge off the danger as possible. Officers carry metal detectors to help find the thugs that are happy to carry knives. And new antisocial behaviour powers introduced last month should also help. Marge and John Lawson keep the memory of their beloved son alive. Every evening they go into his room and say goodnight, but never goodbye. More must be done. There were 5 fatal stabbings in Glasgow on the weekend Kevin Lawson died.
Whatever. You're doing, sweetheart. Thank you so much. You sweetheart.
My lovely big boy. God bless you, son. Is that what you said?
Right.
Not least.
Right, I'll leave you there. I'll go in and let you stay.
Every parent's nightmare, isn't it? And that's all we got left.